Okay, so what was it that led to this lady apparently voicing her opinions about illegals suddenly being bussed into her child's school?
How does it feel that you kicked all the kids out of school tomorrow? How does it feel? Do you feel good? I hope you feel good. I hope you all sleep really well tonight.
Why are you yelling at them?
Because I have a right to. That's why. That's why. Because I'm an aggravated mother. That's why. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Taking over my kid's school. Take all the kids out to sleep here tonight, huh? How long you staying?
Well, this has actually been going on for a while, but apparently it's now hitting a Brooklyn school. There's a lot of nuance to this entire situation, but there's also another situation that we'll be talking about after this one involving some illegals getting into it with some homeless people who then turn right back around and they're now being evicted. The illegals are being evicted in favor of the homeless, but we'll talk about that in the next video. There'll also be a few updates at the end of the video, which of course will also show up in the very next video too, so make sure you guys stick around for both. This might be the last day for a while that we post like more than 2 videos, so there's some updates on that, but we'll get to that more towards the end. So what exactly is going on here? Well, as you guys obviously saw, some illegals are being bussed into a high school. Let's take a look.
Hi there, Chris and Mary. Yeah, that's right. Parents, teachers, students say it took them by surprise when they got word yesterday that these 500 families would be transferred here to their high school to stay overnight. That means students, as you just mentioned, are indeed remote today. And some parents have expressed to us off camera here their frustration, but the mayor said they did this out of an abundance of caution. And that's because you can see in this video here, these tents, they are giant 7 tents on Floyd Bennett Field. So obviously there is concern about wind. The high winds could damage them. Officials say they didn't anticipate there would be flooding, but they did relocate these migrants as a precaution due to these forecasted wind gusts. Our first alert weather team says so far in Brooklyn, wind gusts have gotten up to 45 miles per hour. We're still waiting to hear back from emergency management as to whether these tents were indeed impacted anyway. They say engineers check them after every storm. Meanwhile, migrants at other tent shelters did not need to relocate because of their locations, and tents were set up and structured differently.
Part of the issue that we have at Floyd Bennett Field is we were not allowed to put stakes in the ground. So that changes the wind rating compared to the other structures. It's a historic runway. That's why we couldn't do it. So we had to use ballast. It's also a more exposed area that also changes the wind rating.
Now, the city's controller, Brad Lander, also expressed concerns about placing asylum seekers in Floyd Bennett Field in the first place with known storm risks and cost of moving migrants time and time again as more severe weather is expected throughout the winter. Now, as for when migrants will leave the high school here, we have reached out to city officials and we are still waiting on that timeline. We're live from Brooklyn. Natalie Duddridge, CBS 2 News.
Natalie, thank you.
So apparently these illegals already had a destination that was already set aside for them, and apparently they could not get it set up. Now, guys, I've been talking a lot about Chicago and New York both, and of course Denver, Colorado is also included, but we're going to bring that up more so in the next video because we've been saying for a while that obviously there's been some form of a network been set up so that way more and more people can seek some form of sanctuary. As I have said before, a border wall would curtail at least most of this stuff, and of course remain in Mexico would also help as well. But if migrants continue to surge the border, then obviously these sanctuary cities are going to get more of the people that they asked for, the more of the people that they voted for. And of course, as we've covered on this channel on several occasions, these people suddenly don't want to be sanctuary cities. So once again, it's hypocrisy. However, there is the human traffic factor here that play, but we'll talk more about it a little bit later. The thing about this situation here is that now it's starting to hit home. It's starting to actually hit people in areas that, quite frankly, they did not want to get hit. This right here, of course, occurred in Brooklyn, and there was even a Chicago outlet that covered this. Now, I don't want this video to be too clip heavy, but obviously it's going to be news report and clip heavy. Let's go ahead and play this, get back on the other side again, and go over it in more detail, because obviously it's an election year and this sort of thing right here is going to turn people in the opposite direction of which they have been. I mean, it's kind of like I've been saying for a long time. The best way to red pill somebody on the left is just give them what the hell they ask for.
Out of New York City, students are being forced to learn online as nearly 2,000 migrants move into their school.
Nate Foy is live in Brooklyn with the latest, with what's going on. Nate, what can you tell us about this?
Well, good morning. I can tell you that a couple state assemblymen and concerned parents just spoke moments ago, and they are very upset that the students at this school, 3,600 students, are learning remotely today because of those nearly 2,000 migrants that moved in last night at the city's direction. Those migrants, because the weather is a bit better today than it was last night, have since been moved back to their tent facility. That happened at 4:30 this morning, but the impact continues for the students today. They're learning remotely. All sports practices have been canceled. And we just heard from concerned parents saying that some teachers aren't even showing up for the remote learning sessions. So they say that this really is not a situation that they're comfortable with. But take a look at this video as you see those 2,000 migrants arrive here last night. Again, it was because of bad weather threatening their nearby tent facility. The school notified parents of the students. The city writing, quote, "The health and safety of migrants in our care is always a top priority, which is why we are currently overseeing the relocation of 1,900 guests from the Humanitarian Emergency Response and Relief Center at Floyd Bennett Field. That relocation is forcing students to again learn at home, a proven disaster for learning, as we saw during COVID." Florida Governor and presidential hopeful Ron DeSantis spoke about this last night. Listen here.
The government is commandeering the school to house illegal aliens.
So the migrants now are back at Floyd Bennett Field, but many are wondering for how long. Of course, we're in the middle of winter here in New York City. We just had a nor'easter over the weekend, and harsh conditions are expected, throughout the winter. So people are concerned that this could happen again, not only at this school, but in other districts across New York, which is why these two assemblymen who are not part of this district are here speaking today. And they say that they're drafting legislation to prevent the city from housing migrants in active schools. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says the city is full. Of course, you guys are running into similar problems in Chicago, and the mayor's office says that they're considering...
Now, the report here is that a lot of students were sent home, and they were sent home to do remote learning for a day and a half. So nobody knows exactly how long these people are going to be in this high school. And of course, it's still going to lead to more problems later on, because as you guys will see in the next video, there's actually some eviction notices going out for these illegals. They're staying beyond the emergency time, which makes people automatically wonder if these people are not about to become, homeless. Maybe the city of New York, maybe what they should do is maybe conjure up plane tickets and send the people back. I'm not saying this to be a jerk or anything, even though obviously I'm very, very much against all the illegal immigration coming in. And I can actually see what the hell is going on here. However, you got to ask yourself a question. If the white liberals, the white libs who are in the suburbs and in some of these areas are starting to get upset with this, it makes you wonder exactly what's going to happen. Now, guys, in previous videos, there were people out there advocating, obviously, for the migrants, and these migrants, of course, not to be removed. And, of course, these people are not there physically taking care of these migrants, and they're not physically paying or splitting the bill for these migrants. They claim that they are. They claim that they're being really good left-wingers or whatnot, but obviously there are people who do vote Democrat in state elections and vote Democrat in presidential elections who are obviously finding out that maybe this immigration thing was not such a good idea. Most of these people, by the way, just thought that Texas, New Mexico, obviously Arizona, and California would just straight up flip the bill on this. They probably expect a lot of red states to do so. But Governor Greg Abbott, of course, he decided to turn it on their heads and say, you know what, you want these people? Fine, I'll send them right straight to you. And the Biden administration, of course, allows them to do so. So anytime I hear anybody blame Texas about this, I say maybe what you should be doing is pointing your gun at the Biden administration, because I don't mean that literally, YouTube. Don't come over and knock me for saying that. But maybe you should point the proverbial one at the current administration, because the current administration is the one who wanted all these migrants as well. So that way they could get additional votes 10 years from now when the census flips in 2030. And of course, they could also replace an entire voting block. And of course, we've talked about that voting block before and how it is that that voting block is finally waking up to the situation. But this entire situation, as it continues to get worse and worse and worse, and as winter begins to get worse and worse and worse, remember, guys, it's only January. It's its absolute coldest in late January and February and actually early March. So this situation is probably going to get a lot worse than what you've already seen. So the thing is this right here. People are starting to finally see that, hey, look, these people are being bussed into our neighborhoods. They're being bussed into our homes. It makes you wonder if people are going to be forced to take care of them. Or it's kind of like what this lady here says, especially when it comes in regards to after-school programs, kids practicing, I don't know, sports or whatever, you know, the normal type stuff that people are finally beginning to see.
Children can't play because there's a bunch of migrants in the park. It's not safe anymore.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of can't do anything because of all the migrants. And, of course, when you factor in the homeless, it definitely makes the situation a lot worse. Now, guys, this news report, which is going to be the last news report of this video before we give some additional commentary and before I actually double down and explain things much, much further, it's going to look similar to the first news report that you saw. However, the thing about this news report here is it includes a lot more voices voicing their concern over this particular situation. Pay very close attention to what the people are actually saying. We'll come back on the other end, and I'll decide for you exactly what the people of New York are actually thinking right now.
High school had to learn remotely today after thousands of migrants were relocated to their high school because of the storm. CBS News' Natalie Duddridge live in Midwood, Brooklyn at James Madison High School with more. Natalie?
Well, hi there, Chris. So when parents learned that their teenagers, high school students here at James Madison, would have their classes interrupted in order to accommodate migrants during the storm, they were furious. And now there are questions over if this will happen every time there's a weather event. Outraged parents and some Midwood community members argued students' classes at James Madison High School should never have been moved online to make room for migrants to temporarily shelter in their gym and auditorium during Tuesday night's storm.
What I'm talking about, the human issue here.
It's inexcusable to do this to the students of New York City high schools, especially after all they've been through with COVID.
They have to come up with another solution. They cannot do this to the school kids.
Parents told us they were surprised when they were notified Tuesday their students would learn remote Wednesday. They were even less impressed when they said some online classes never even happened.
My son walked off for the first period. The teacher didn't even show up to the link. He waited for the second period. No teacher.
Tuesday, city officials announced nearly 2,000 migrants would be bused from their tent shelters at Floyd Bennett Field to James Madison High School due to concerns over the tent's ability to stand up to severe weather.
We are doing this out of an abundance of caution because of the high winds.
Officials said migrant families were bused back to Floyd Bennett Field at 4:15 Wednesday morning. A timing decision New York State Assembly member Michael Novikov also questions, along with the costs, staffing, and planning required to move hundreds of people.
I'm sympathetic for migrants too. I mean, I have no idea why they were moved during the night. You know, those people have kids. Why 4:15 in the morning? The school is closed anyway, so they could have stayed here until 6 or 7 a.m.
Elected officials and community leaders say they can give the city a list of empty buildings much better suited to house migrants during the next storm than a high school would be. Meanwhile, we are told this high school is being cleaned and sports practices, they're still canceled today. We're live in Brooklyn. Natalie Duddridge, CBS 2 News.
And still.
Only solution I could think of is just send them back. I mean, I hate to tell you this, but you kind of voted for this. I mean, you kind of voted for these people to actually, or maybe you stayed home. Either way, though, I think it would be better for you to actually vote for the person who wants to actually build a wall and actually talks about border security. Trust me, there's going to be a rightward shift, but we'll talk about that more in a second. And, oh, yeah, that's why I forgot. The city's budget is completely strained, and the federal government's budget is completely strained, too. It's funny, too, about people on the left. They just think that the money grows on trees and that we can just produce it. But, of course, the more and more and more we print, the higher the inflation gets. And, of course, everybody's complaining about that, too. Also, you got people out there who can't get a job where they get more than 20 hours a week. And even though their wages are like $15, $16 an hour, it doesn't exactly do enough to cover the cost of everything that's needed, even in cities where you don't really have to actually drive anywhere. You just use public transportation or walk. It's obviously still hurting people there. Fact of the matter is this right here. You don't have the money to take care of this. You don't have the resources to take care of this. We called this a long time ago, and if you think Texas is going to take care of it, obviously Texas is throwing the middle finger up in the air and said, no, screw you, we're not going to take care of this. You voted for this nonsense, so there you can take care of it. Maybe you should consider, I don't know, maybe, like I said before, vote for the person who actually wants to send these people back. I mean, it's not hard. The better way, of course, would be just simply to give these people plane tickets and send them back home, of course, or basically just send them back. A lot of these migrants who are coming over are actually economic migrants. And while I don't blame you for being an economic migrant trying to seek out a better opportunity, the thing is this right here. These people are sending the money back to their family, to the nation of their origin. Not exactly attributing to the U.S. economy. They're not exactly helping out. As a matter of fact, I got to be straight up honest with you. And this right here is the moment that I got red-pilled on this situation. And don't worry, we'll talk about the situation, of course, with solutions and whatnot. Because, as I said before, the best thing you could have done was just close the daggone border and send everybody back. But, of course, we have an administration that has a little agenda that they're trying to get across. But here's what I wanted to tell you guys. I live, obviously, in the southeastern United States. I live in an area that's pretty well diverse. I grew up with people who, obviously, people of color, black people, and, of course, obviously, Hispanics, Asians. We all had somebody we went to school with down here that obviously was not white. I mean, unlike a lot of areas up north, which are really, really, really white. As a matter of fact, when I joined the Marines back in 2003, there were actually some people who had never been exposed to somebody of color. I want to say one of those guys was from northern Ohio, and another person from New Hampshire, something like that. There, I can't remember their actual names, but I remember the stories. The thing is this right here. I got officially red-pilled in this situation, not by working in the fields, because obviously I did not catch it at the time, but I got red-pilled in this situation while working construction. Now, where I was working at, we had a lot of guys who weren't white. Like I said before, no big deal. So you've got, obviously, 2 black guys on your crew, you've got 3 white guys on the crew, and you've got a Hispanic guy who's actually a naturalized citizen here on your crew. No big deal, nothing like that. Everybody just kind of works together. It was just a fire watch. I wasn't actually doing anything else, making sure the place was safe. But still, I'm in the car, the van that's carried us to the job site, and a bunch of guys come in. Now, these guys, obviously, were economic migrants. They would show up for roughly 2 or 3 months, work a job, carry the money back, and they'd go home. Which makes me wonder if they really and truly want to be in the United States, because you're going back to the socialist country that you came from. These guys here came from Mexico. Some of them, of course, came from El Salvador. And we also had some guys who were part of a native tribe who, by the way, were obviously working and trying to go back to where they were. Now, the native tribe, of course, is still in my home state. Not going to say what tribe, I'm not going to say what name or anything like that there, because obviously I don't think it really matters for the constant discussion. But still, I figured I'd toss it out there. One of the things that was said, and of course politics got brought up, and I somehow I kept my mouth closed. I can't believe I did that. But one of the things that the guy said was America used to be about breaking down walls and stuff. He was joking about the fact that Donald Trump was president, wanted to build a wall, and that he's not going to be able to come in and out of the country like he wants to. The fact of the matter is the boy and the guys were known very, very well, because they would show up for like 2 and 3 months at a time. They would leave for 2 or 3 months, then they would take the very next job, taking the job from somebody else. Now, I already hear a lot of people saying that this issue, you're just mad because these people are, I don't know, maybe scrubbing toilets, doing very, very bad jobs. Dude, that's not the point here. The point is this right here. It's not just migrants or white people whose jobs are being taken away from. It's actually legal immigrants too. A lot of these legal immigrants may need a startup job to get to a bigger job. As a matter of fact, it's always a true success story. And it's a great story when somebody comes over with absolutely nothing, they work their butt off and they become successful. This right here is not the case. These people here are showing up. They are working, carrying the money back to the country of their origin or sending it back, not contributing to the U.S. economy. They're not actually putting money into it. They're not actually paying, well, they may be paying some form of tax, but still at the same time, it's almost like pure thievery and pure robbery. And now they are being ushered into an actual high school, which I find very weird, especially given the fact that now these people are complaining, given the fact that they had been given opportunities to stay in hotels like, say, the Roosevelt, the Plaza Hotel, all the very, very nice facilities in New York City. And now these people are upset because they are now forced to be moved from them. That right there, of course, will be coming up more so in the next video on this topic, because when we get to the whole eviction notice thing, yeah, you will definitely see exactly how crazy it has gotten. So what happens as a result of this? Well, guys, I've been saying for a while that immigration was probably going to be a pretty big issue this year, and it already is. If you really and truly want to change somebody's mind, just give them what the hell they want. I mean, what's the old saying? Be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. Look at how they respond when they actually get it. Most of these people, by the way, in Brooklyn, most of these people who live in Queens and Manhattan, they obviously voted for this. Now, in Manhattan, people are not going to be as affected by this because they would stay in a hotel in Manhattan, and then, of course, they would get bused somewhere like, say, Brooklyn or Queens or the Bronx. Now, I don't have the actual figures on me right now, but I don't think that Brooklyn is too much smaller when it comes to overall population than the borough of Manhattan. Staten Island is a little bit more conservative, but New York City as a whole, all the boroughs are pretty well liberal or pretty well Democrat. Staten Island, of course, they fought back as soon as possible, and they, for the most part, won their court cases. But then you get situations like, say, Brooklyn and Queens, and you got to ask yourself a question, what's going to happen in these cases? What's going to happen in these boroughs? Well, my feeling is that there is actually going to be a shift to the right this year when it comes to the vote. And, of course, there's probably going to be a shift to a third party. Fact of the matter is, these people have been given what it is that they voted for, and quite frankly, they are obviously pissed off, and they are fed up with the fact that they are having to deal with the quote-unquote nonsense. That right there is what the hell is going on here. They are now seeing their daily lives being completely affected by this. It's being turned upside down. And of course, at the same exact time, they're also kind of showing you, they're kind of showing you what I've always said, that they were definitely a lot more racist than us base conservatives and Southerners. I've talked about this issue before, and I'll talk about it in numerous videos, and I'll probably talk about it when I do an immigration project or I do an immigration video essay, and how it's really and truly going to affect the vote come this year. But the thing is this right here. Go back to those Boston busing riots. Go back to all the situations that I've talked about before, especially when it comes to identity politics. You see, the white, well, not really the white liberal, but definitely the more classical liberal or the white Democrat, they vote Democrat for one reason and one reason only. They want to keep certain people out of their communities. They want to keep certain people out of their suburbs. Preferably people who aren't white. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Of course, they'll put up with someone who's Asian, or they'll put up with the occasional freaking black from time to time. But for the most part, they don't want people of color or people who are different than white in their neighborhood. The reason why is because they believe it tears down the values. They believe it tears down not only the property value, but they also breed crime, which of course is what's going to happen once you have these illegals out on the street. I mean, some of these places, by the way, are being turned into absolute red light districts. But of course, there are other people who've talked about this on the platform. But the thing is this right here, okay? This right here is what people need to understand. They vote Democrat because Democrats run on basically giving the other side whatever the hell it is that they want. They basically say, I don't care. Just give them what the hell they want. Just keep them out of my neighborhood. And you're obviously seeing this, so you got to ask yourself a question. Is a rightward shift coming? I feel like it is, and I think it's only going to get worse for the current administration. And as I explained in the previous video, whoever it is that they choose to usurp the current president as party, the policies are going to be stuck to whoever the next Democratic Party candidate is, and not to mention the fact they have to run on the wokeness factor to keep a very, very small slither or a getting smaller slither of their base intact. So, yes, it will get chaotic. Now, with that right there, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this video now, but I am going to give you guys a couple of updates. The goal for this year was obviously to switch everything over to like one video a day. I've obviously been posting a lot more like I was last year. A lot of new things have came out, a lot of stories, and of course the algorithm for me pretty much went dead over the holidays, so definitely I've been posting a little bit more. It's not like I didn't want to post stories, obviously I want to do, but I want to kind of stay strictly on schedule. The weekend, there's only going to be about 3 or 4 videos total, one per day. One is going to be on this guy, this Alpha Chad guy who says he's not gay for dating a T. And of course, there's also going to be 2 other projects. One, of course, which is going to be on the media, and the other one, of course, is going to be on do kids grow out of their ideologies. The thing is this right here. Obviously, I need to stay on a much more disciplined basis. Also, something else too. I'm going to link I'm going to put the link to Gear Issue 33 in the comment section. I'm going to start back posting there here real soon. Of course, it's going to be mostly military movie reviews and stuff. I'm also going to go ahead and tell you guys that you can follow me here on Facebook, and you can follow me on Twitter as well. So make sure you guys please follow me there. And with that right there being said, I'm going to go ahead and halt this video now and go ahead and get to work on the other one. I will see you guys later. Make sure you guys, once again, tell me what you think. Like button, share, please subscribe, notifications bell. And I'll see you guys later.